Ephesians 1:5. Because God loved us, He planned that we should be His own children. It is through Jesus Christ that we are adopted as God's children. That's the way God wanted it to be. This is the story of Dixie Doodle Doo. In Proverbs 12:10, it declares a righteous man takes care of his animals. Recently, my family adopted a wonderful dog named Dixie. Her full adopted name is Dixie Doodle Doo Johnson. She is 6 years old in people years, which is close to 42 in dog years. Dixie was a bit skittish when she arrived at our home because she was a rescue dog from Tennessee. She had lived in many places before arriving in our home, so she wasn't sure how we would treat her. I understand how Dixie feels because I too lived in several homes as a foster child before becoming a member of my family. My siblings and I wondered if we would ever have a family of our own, but now we do. Dixie does too. God used Dixie to teach me just what being chosen in adoption means. I am not the only one. I am not only loved by God, but I'm also loved by my adopted parents. Dixie also taught me a lot about responsibility as I learned how to care for her. Although I fell in love with Dixie the first moment I laid eyes on her and she began to lick me all over, it didn't take me long to resent the work it took to care for Dixie. She needed to be fed and walked all the time. Actually, my siblings and I shared her feeding twice a day and walking 3 times. It's not a lot of time, but I get mad when my playtime is interrupted. Even when I complained about caring for her, Dixie continued to shower me with kisses. My mom loves me in the same way, feeding and caring for me even when I give her a hard time. Dixie has short caramel hair, the color of caramel apples, one of my favorite snacks. She also has black hairs mixed in on her ears and nose, and her paws and bellies are covered with white fur. Dixie also has a black mark in shape of a sword on her hip. People often ask about it when they first meet her. We explain that it is a birthmark, not dirt or magic marker as they presume. Dixie does not like baths. I have tried giving her baths outside in the sunshine, but she likes to roll into the dirt just when I finish. I've given her baths upstairs in the tub, but she always tries to escape. I don't understand why, since I love baths and I use a wonderful shampoo that smells like bubblegum. I picked it out myself at the pet store. Since Mom doesn't want her roaming around wet, I try to hang out with her while she dries. Sometimes I read her a book. I always give her a good brushing. Since Dixie sheds a lot, I use 2 different types of brushes to get as much loose fur as I can. Then I throw it into the woods for the birds to use to line their nests. Her fur is so soft, I'm sure the baby birds love it. Dixie loves chew toys and has collected quite a few since she arrived at our home. Her favorite is a squirrel named Pippi, which my sister gave her for her birthday. Although Dixie loves playing with my sister and me, we will often hear a random squeak out of nowhere and know that Dixie has decided to play with Pippi all by herself. The squeak echoes through the house. The noise sometimes drives my mom crazy, but she puts up with it because Dixie is such a lovable dog. Although Dixie loves to make a lot of noise with her squeaker toy, Mom is not so patient when my siblings and I make a lot of noise. Dixie doesn't like it either when we are yelling at each other or running through the house. She'll head over to her bed in the corner of the living room. Dad says she feels safe there. Dixie also hates the vacuum cleaner noise and will run for cover under the nearest table whenever it starts up. We try to tell her that it won't hurt her, but she won't listen. One time I tried to use the vacuum to vacuum up the loose hair on her. I'll never do that again. Like most dogs, Dixie loves to go for WALKS. I have to spell it because if she hears it, she may think I'm going to take her on one right now. I do think she is learning to spell, so spelling out words may not work much longer. They say that most dogs know at least 50 words. Since Dixie is a very smart dog, I think I will teach her 100. Right now, Dixie is learning tricks. She can sit, stay, lay, and roll over. She's not so great at heeling yet, but I am sure she will get the hang of it eventually. Her favorite trick is to sneak up on you while you're watching TV and lick your face. Dixie is also learning to jump over logs and fetch balls and Pippi. Sometimes she decides to keep the fetch toy to herself rather than bringing it back to me. Dixie loves her treats almost as much as Pippi. She will generally drop Pippi in a heartbeat or a doggy blink if she thinks you have food on you. I always carry treats with me when we go for walks, so Dixie is ready to practice her tricks.
Come here, girl.
Right now, we are working on come and heel. Dixie has a tough time listening to me on walks because there's lots of wildlife hanging out in the woods that surround our home. A chipmunk taking cover in a pile of rocks is much more interesting than me and the trail. I can understand her distractions since I often find myself looking out the window rather than at the blackboard during class. Dog treats sometimes help keep her attention, since what dog doesn't like food? Speaking of food, Dixie eats a cup of dry food twice a day, and I always keep her bowl full of fresh water. I don't much like her diet, same thing morning and night, but dog experts say that dogs don't get bored with the same food day after day. I'm not sure about that since she seems pretty eager to chow down on whatever falls to the floor during our family meals. Most of the time, Dixie will eat her food the minute it hits the bowl, but if she doesn't dig right in, I worry that she's sick. Dad tells me that her breed is not as food crazy as most dogs. I don't know about that. Dixie also gets 2 balls of cheese a day. I use the cheese to wrap around her pills and hide them. Dixie has to take medicine for seizures. A seizure is when Dixie's mind stops working like it should and she moves around on the floor in crazy ways. It was scary when Dixie had her first seizure because she thrashed around for about 5 minutes, knocking into a lot of things on our living room floor. Her nose also got very hot, so we put ice packs on her to keep her cool. It took about a half an hour for her to act like herself again. The vet said she will be fine, but she needs to take the medicine to control her seizures. Since Dixie started taking the medicine, she's not had another one. Dixie is not a particular breed, but what the vet calls a mutt. A mutt means she's a mix of many different dogs, and it's difficult to tell exactly what type she is. A lot of people thought she looks like a Shiba Inu, a Japanese hunting dog. We know that she is a hunter, since Dixie is always looking and listening for animals and then trying to catch them. We see lots of deer, squirrels, and birds on our walks, so her nose is constantly on the alert, sniffing here and there. Dixie gets very excited if we see another dog on our walks, because then she can sniff their butts. I am not sure why dogs like to smell other dogs' butts, but I'm glad my nose doesn't work like that. I certainly don't want to smell my friends' backsides. I love taking Dixie for a walk, though sometimes it feels like she pulls so hard that I think my arm might come out of its socket. She doesn't seem to like trucks because when they pass us by, she will try chasing them, barking ferociously. Squirrels and chipmunks provide another source of entertainment, especially when they run up a tree or under a rock to get out of her reach. The other day, she tried to climb a tree in hot pursuit of a squirrel. She didn't get very high, though, and she fell to the ground exhausted. I am sure she will try again, so I have to always be on the alert when we go for a walk. My sister and I share dog walking responsibilities. We have 3 days when we are in charge of walking and feeding Dixie. We split the other day between us. Dixie's butt wiggles a lot when she walks. Her back legs do kind of a dance as she strolls down the street. It's funny to watch. Dixie also wants to walk on the right side of the road or in the middle of the street. Mom taught me that the safest place to walk is on the left side of the road facing traffic. The police agree, since that's what they told us to do during the safety assembly at school. It's easier to see if an out-of-control car is coming at you if you're facing it. I have tried to tell this to Dixie, but she doesn't listen. She wants to walk where she wants to walk, but I'm learning to show her that I'm in control, not her. On Sunday afternoons after church, my family normally goes on a hike. Dixie loves to ride in the car to a new adventure spot with new smells, new animals, and new trails. Dad is really good at following maps, but he is often wrong about the actual length of our treks. Yesterday, our hike was 4 miles instead of 2 miles long. Most of us were exhausted when we got back to the car, but not Dixie. She still had lots of energy and eagerly went on another walk before bedtime. Although we always bring a bottle of water for Dixie, she often heads for puddles or ponds. Since that water may make her sick, we encourage her to drink the bottled water just like us. Dixie is constantly peeing on our walks. It doesn't seem like she drinks enough water to pee that much, but Dad says that is how she marks her territory and lets other dogs know she's around. She sniffs here and pees. She sniffs there and pees. Sometimes she pees like a boy dog lifting her leg, but other times she squats down like a lady dog. It's so funny to watch her, and I try to guess whether she's going to squat or lift her leg, but I only get it right half the time. I wonder how Dixie decides. The funniest thing that Dixie does on her walks is what we call the figure-8 dance. Right before she is going to leave some doggy-do, she circles to the left, then circles to the right, making a figure-8. Sometimes she does the dance 2 or 3 times before she settles on the place that is just right. It must smell just right. Another thing I would like to ask her about, but I don't think she would understand my question. I'm glad that I don't have to find the perfect spot every time I need to go to the bathroom. If you don't have a dog like Dixie, I hope you can get one soon. Dogs are a lot of fun, plus they teach you responsibility. My parents are always talking about how I need to take more responsibility for things, that God has big plans for me. While I don't always like the sounds of that, Dixie makes responsibility fun because she appreciates all I do for her with lots of kisses.